So if you're following the Lightning at all, you probably know that Ford's new electric truck is a smash hit. But lately, a lot of the day one reservation holders have been starting to jump ship. And I think Elon Musk is to blame. It sounds like a stretch, but let's actually take a look way back at this Cybertruck unveiling. Now, this was the first big announcement of a electric truck, and not only that, it came in at a record-breaking, amazing price of $40,000 for the base trim of the Cybertruck.
Oh my God. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
After the announcement, you'll probably remember that the Cybertruck had this big kind of unveiling, a social media post where they did a tug-of-war of the Cybertruck versus the Ford F-150. And this was the start of a feud. For Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, his ears perked up. And in fact, I think this simple tug-of-war video may be the root cause, that and, well, them announcing the $40,000 price tag, of why we're in the situation we are today. This beef kicked off. It's very childish. They're just old boomers who are mad at each other. Jim Farley is, doing snide little comments in his presentations, like announcing that you could charge a Tesla with the F-150 Lightning, and goes on to also say in a later presentation, we're the first truck to market. Take that, Elon. Little small cringy stuff like this, but it just kind of is worth mentioning because it proves that the whole vision is Ford trying to beat and or catch up to Tesla, and they're doing that through the electric truck. So fast forward to the announcement of the new electric Ford F-150 Lightning, the reason we're all watching this. And CEO Jim Farley gets on stage and announces the amazing starting price.
And this F-150 Lightning starts at just under $40,000. And that's before you get your federal or state tax credits.
That will sound sort of familiar because it's the same starting price as the Cybertruck. No coincidence there, I don't think. I mean, when we look at the bickering back and forth and, everything else, it just kind of proves that, yeah, his eyes were on competing with Tesla when he announced this price tag. And honestly, things might have been fine, but then two very important things happened that led to our situation. First problem is COVID. Well, it led to a giant parts shortage for basically every manufacturer out there. And that, not only that, the real thing that's hurting them, ironically, is how popular the F-150 Lightning is. They're clocking in over 200,000 reservations. And that's before they turned the switch off and wouldn't let people in anymore. So they probably could have even had more. Just at the 200,000 point, they realized, oh shoot, we got to actually build 200,000 trucks. Maybe we dive back down on the people that were letting it. And these two things, again, the parts shortage and the popularity, are coming together, making it very hard for Ford to create that $40,000 truck that they promised. I mean, even saying it now, a fully electric truck starting at $40K, when you look at any other EV starting at a minimum of, $45,000 to basically $60,000, a $40,000 electric truck seems insane to think about, and it is. In fact, to this date, Ford has only made one of this Pro trim, that's the $40,000 version, for every 5 trucks they've produced. And to put that in perspective, at their last announcement, they had only made 560 of these. It's not a lot, especially when you're talking about, 200,000 reservations. And yeah, sure, not all of them were hoping to get this affordable model, but most of them were. So all said and done, we officially have reached the close of the first year of making these, and the numbers are extremely low. Like I mentioned, 1 for every 5 trucks that they've built, and they haven't built a lot of trucks. And they even went as far as to close off allowing people to order for 2022 on the Pro trim. Now, it's important to mention when 2023 orders opened up, which was just a couple weeks ago, they did allow a couple lucky people to go in and make the order for the Pro. But the good news ends there, because the very next week, when they invited more people, they weren't letting anyone order the Pro again. Again, it seemed to be sold out. So let's say they've even doubled that 560 number. We're still barely over 1,000 of this $40,000 truck they promised. And here's where it gets a little awkward, because just this last month, Ford decided to raise the prices of the Lightning across the board, which means there's no $40,000 truck anymore, which seems confusing, because if you look in any piece of marketing material, including their own website, they're still announcing that the Lightning starts at, $39,000. It seems a little sketchy. But before we get so mad at Ford, I'd like to stop down. Again, remember, Ford did not expect this to be such a hit, so we got to keep that in mind while we continue this video. And I'd also like to play a clip from friend Mitchell Watts from Town & Country TV, who was recently on our live stream and had a really good point.
The Pro was obviously limited in the 22 model. When they first came out with the F-150 Lightning, a lot of people don't realize that when you're manufacturing a vehicle, you have to pull aside, and once again, I'm not a manufacturing expert. I've just been at this dealership for 22 years,
Sure.
almost 23 years. And so I've just been around long enough to be dangerous. But for what people don't realize is that the F-150 Lightning, they started developing that vehicle. They got the green light on the program back in 2018. And people don't realize that it takes that long to take a vehicle from concept to reality. It takes them that long that you have to plan far in advance, far more than your reservation holders can tell you. You have to choose what trim level. We have to guesstimate how many we think that will order the Lariat, how many we think will order the Platinum, how many do we think will order the Pro. And so I don't think it's any fault of Ford's fault. I just don't think they realized that as many people were going to take it as they would on the Pro model.
So to echo what Mitchell is saying, Ford did not probably do this on purpose. They probably just thought they would have such a small amount, and they pre-planned production probably almost 2 years before it launched. But with these low production numbers, now we got to talk about dealers and what's happening there. Because remember, there's not a lot, even, let alone the higher trims, there's just not a lot of these Lightnings out there, which has led to dealers charging anywhere between 30 to 50,000 over MSRP. It's kind of wild. And not only that, there was a Pro, I believe, that was $40,000 mocked up. So you were paying 100% more than you should for these vehicles, and it's not gone away. I'd say the average dealer still has them out on their lots, if they have one on their lot. It's a minimum of $20K over market. This even led to other sketchy things, like dealers trying to scare their reservation holders out of their reservation by saying, hey, if you do this order, we're going to charge you an extra $20,000, $40,000 or $50,000 until the customer backs away, and then Ford gets to get an extra truck on their lot and then sell it at a markup. There's quite a few stories of this happening, and it's just unfortunate. But anyway, that brings us to 2023. It's a new year. It's a new model for the Ford Lightning. So you'd think things would change. But that's where the price hike kind of takes effect. And again, Ford raised the prices across the board between $7,000 and almost $8,000 for some of their vehicles, including charging for the charger. It's now an extra $500 if you're going to want to charge this, which is, yeah, throw that in. I'm going to want to charge it, I think. Now, the bright side to me was, they're raising the price. That means maybe they're not losing money on the Pro anymore. The parts shortage has really taken a toll on Ford, and, maybe raising these prices means they'll be able to make enough Pros and all the other trims that would satisfy the demand, and that's why they were raising the prices. At least that's what Ford kind of said they were doing, and I thought they were doing, until just the other day when a survey went out to all the reservation holders, with more bad news if you were looking for the Pro trim, again, the $40,000 Lightning. So if you didn't already take your $100 back because of the price hike and turn away your reservation, well, you got more bad news, because now Ford's saying they're sold out this year too. So even for 2023, you can't get the now $47,000 version of the Lightning either. they're making, if you fill out this form, as you see on the screen here, it's saying that you need to wait over a year. So again, this is just causing more and more people to back out. The pricing made people back out. The availability definitely made people back out. Not only that, it's just been kind of an awkward thing to realize, hey, I put a reservation in for a vehicle and now I'm waiting 2 years. I need a vehicle. I just need to back out, not because I'm mad, but because, well, I need something to drive. I can't keep waiting for a mystery mobile. And now I don't blame everyone who's saying, hey, this is a bait and switch. This is yada, yada, yada. People, I think, do deserve a right to be upset with how this all has gone down. I mean, people signed up, on stage. We can't forget that. On stage, it's just in big letters that it says it's an electric truck starting at $40,000. And people have a lot of time invested into this and actual money. Again, it was $100 to place the reservation. So I think people are rightfully upset. It's okay to be upset. I mean, are they entitled to get this vehicle just because they put a reservation in? Probably not. But I think it's okay to, be a little bummed that it's not actually ever going to happen. And honestly, that's, again, I think the root of this video is that Ford never should have made this $40,000 price tag. At least not yet, or until they were ready. I mean, if they would have set their beef aside with Tesla and just say, we're going to come in and we're going to do our $80,000 version of the Lightning, wait till that, gets steam, and then work our way down into more affordable models, I think people would have at least not have been upset. Now, obviously, Ford's doing just fine. This is one of the most hottest vehicles since the Model T. But it's leaving a sour taste in so many people's mouth, especially, again, if you've been on this waiting list and all of a sudden you're either having to pay a lot more for something you thought was going to be less or wait a lot longer. Of course, it's really easy to say this in hindsight. No one could have predicted this, but hopefully with the survey, as we just mentioned, asking people what trim they're hoping to get and so on, it will lead to, more availability of these other trims after this year. Maybe something they should have done a while back. And it's not all bad news. Ford still claims that they're going to be getting up to 160,000 of these a year by next year. So that means even if they keep up with only making one Pro for every 5 Lightning, that's still 36,000 built instead of just 560. That's better. So all this to say, if Jim Farley just wouldn't have been so aggressive of keeping up with Elon and Tesla, they never would have been in this situation where they're losing so many reservation holders. Obviously, it's still a popular vehicle, so it's not hurting Ford, but a lot of people are saying it's hurting their reputation. I mean, it's just a kind of a rough rollout is the overall thesis here. And on the flip side, though, if they didn't compete so heavily with Tesla, well, it might not have been this popular in the first place. So kind of a double-edged sword. So the last thing I'll say is, I am myself a reservation holder. I guess I've always been focused on the mid trims and the Pro news has never really affected me, but it's important to kind of share the story of what's happening. Now, am I upset that the prices went up even though I reserved it a while ago when the prices were lower? Yeah, I'm a little bummed, but of course I'll still probably make my purchase because all said and done, it's still a pretty great value, and a Rivian truck, which is the only other electric truck you can get, is an even longer waiting list and even more expensive. I mean, all this to say is Ford at least came out with a product. We're still waiting for a Cybertruck. That just doesn't even exist, which is kind of the funniest part of all this, is Ford tried to keep up with something that literally never existed. That's kind of crazy. But who knows? In a couple of years, we'll have a lot more competition and not these awkward situations dealing with parts issues. And it's just a crazy time. So we can't be too mad at what happened. It's just interesting. So I'll leave you with that. If you guys are new to the channel, I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing, even though my hair looks crazy. Promise not to do videos outside anymore. Lesson learned. This is an electric video channel, all about an electric video channel. Yeah, it's an EV YouTube channel, all about electric trucks, electric vehicle news. We do live streams. I review electric bikes. We're everything electric. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you hang out. And I And I am. And on that note, I'm out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.